Hello, everyone, and welcome to Overtime. About 10, 12 minutes ago, Joseph Biden was sworn in as the 46th President of the United States. We also had the expected 146 pardons from Trump, his last act in office. He was not in the pardons, so he did not attempt to pardon himself. He did, however, pardon Steve Bannon, ending a federal suit into his border wall fundraiser, which was defunct, and presumably he kept a disordinate amount of the money from that. The wall, as it turns out, was not paid for by Mexico. He also, he pardoned Little Kim. Or Little Wayne. He also pardoned another rapper, Kodak Black. He pardoned Elliot Brody, who was a top fundraiser on his campaign. A very large number of these were people that were tied to the Trump campaign. He gave clemency to Paul Erickson, who was a conservative political operative who was the boyfriend of alleged Russian spy Maria Butina, who has also pled guilty to a number of things. So let's see. A number of other ones. Detroit Mayor Kilpatrick, who was convicted of racketeering, extortion, and false tax returns. William Walters, a professional sports gambler, convicted of insider trading. It's a who's who of the criminal element in Washington. So I suppose he's draining the swamp by making their crimes no longer illegal. Or was a unique way of doing it, I suppose. At any rate, I've said this story a few times before, and I'm not going to harp on it too much, I think. But I remember the night that Trump won very well. The numbers were looking all right for Hillary. They were never looking spectacular, but they were looking all right. They were looking spectacular if you're not aware that the numbers in the beginning always look better for the Democrat because the East Coast reports before, of course, the mid-states. So those are all the liberal bastions. You're always going to get higher numbers for Hillary, but they still weren't what anyone had expected. So, and then, once I realized that Trump had won, realizing that, my wife was asleep and I'd have to wake her and tell her, I thought, I was never a huge fan of Hillary's. I really wasn't, but she was definitely the most vetted candidate in human history, and they really couldn't find anything that stuck on her. They invented a lot of shit, but anything that stuck, no. And she wasn't a particularly nice or pleasant human being, I don't think, but that shouldn't disqualify one from that office, and certainly she was qualified and could have done the job and probably would have done quite well. Instead, we got Biden, who was a misogynist, grab him by the pussy, and was able to convince people, oh, it's just locker room give me a break. And, his attacks on immigrants, his attacks on foreign countries, his nationalism, bordering on fascism. I had never even considered, really, that he could win, because I assumed that the country I lived in wasn't that stupid. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to stay by that comment, because if you couldn't see through him when he was talking about murdering the families of terrorists, their wives, their brothers, their children, for the crimes that they did, bringing back waterboarding, which is absolutely a form of torture. It's used actually still today in SEER training when they're training Navy SEALs and Marines to resist torture. They use that. It's been a very long road, and it's a little hard to believe it's over. So, I guess I may have misspoken there. All right, apologies. Thank you for that. Titan is telling me that was Trump, not Biden. And I see a number of people are in the live chat. Peter, Rhea, Titan, and obviously it's an unusual hour for us, but we thought since obviously this is news. So once again, Biden has been sworn in now as the 46th president of the United States, officially ending Trump's term as president. There's obviously going to be a lot going forward. He's going to be facing criminal charges. There's going to be, I think, repercussions from the pardons he's given out. I think that there's going to be a lot of healing that has to be done on both sides. Well, I won't get into. But for now, I think it feels nice feeling like there's competency back in the White House. Even Bush was far more competent than Trump and would never have dreamed of pulling us out of NATO or the Paris Accords or any number of this is all, it's insane. So I haven't had a chance to absorb it yet. It seems like it shouldn't be that big a deal, I suppose. But on the flip side, historians are already saying Trump will likely go down as the worst president in U.S. history. His approval ratings were actually really quite low. He did a tremendous amount of damage to this country, and I think the consensus is that the COVID crisis has been managed about as poorly as it could have been, if not actually had more fuel put on it, certainly by his removing the travel ban on Brazil and the UK and parts of Europe, ostensibly as an FU to Biden, but nonetheless an FU to Biden that unquestioningly puts tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of American lives at risk. These are countries heavily hit by COVID, and Brazil has a new strain that's more dangerous, and Trump is saying, hey, let's let people travel there because fuck you, Biden. Is there anybody who doubts for a second that that's not the man who's been in that office for the last 4 years? So I think there's going to be soul searching on all sides of the aisle. I hope there is. I don't know how much some Republicans will be doing that, but nonetheless, it's strange to think it's over, and I thank God it can't be revoked at this point. There's nothing Trump can do. He is now out. He is going back to Mar-a-Lago, and we will see what Biden does. I think there is this expectation that Biden's going to be a spectacular president. In some ways, I think he will be, because you can always compare most by the last one. So by that bar, he doesn't have to do a whole heck of a lot. But I think he's actually still going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be maybe a bit better than a Carter. He's not going to be the best president we've ever had, but I hope he's going to be a good one, and I certainly wish him well. So that's it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more to cover. There was no violence. You could actually tell he was armored. You could tell there was armor underneath his coat. His coat and his shirt had been retailored to fit body armor underneath. And you could tell everybody on that dais had it, which is an interesting statement about how far we've fallen. But nonetheless, like I said, I think there's going to be plenty of time for reflection, and we will certainly discuss it. Tonight we have a show. Dr. John Shook will be on for our continuing introduction to philosophy. He's going to be discussing epistemology. So, or as he put it, what is truth? How do we know what truth is? That'll be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, my hope is that we keep the violence down and that this country does find a way to heal. I don't think we should put the gas, press the pedal on that per se, because I think there's a lot of wounds there. So we need to expect it's going to take time for all sides. But I do think we need to, in short order, at least start thinking about it. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining us. And Geo Streber is what it looks like. Streber saying congrats to the U.S. We narrowly dodged a bullet. Yeah, we did, actually. I don't know. I could have handled another four. I will be honest. We had talked about leaving the country, and it may sound. I mean, I had friends who left the country. I have a friend who's still in some South American country, Guatemala, I want to say. I don't remember. But, other countries were taking advantage of this, as well they should. France said, hey, if you have a higher level education, come to France. We'll make it worth your while. And they did. For people who claim to know so much about the economy and how to attract high-priced talent, they don't seem to know all that much. But, so congratulations to all of us. And at a minimum, congratulations to us barely transferring power without any violence, at least this day, but that was only through tens of thousands of troops, and everybody, including the vice president and the president, fully body armored. It's worth noting that this is also first vice president of color, or minority vice president. She actually represents several minorities, and the first female one. So. Yeah, I don't even. Thank God. And I don't like giving Trump so much power that I find myself overjoyed by this, because that's giving him more power than he deserves. But on the flip side, wow. So thank you all for joining us. Once again, Joseph Biden becomes the 46th president of the United States, something that unfortunately his son did not live to see him do. But we. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of unpacking to do of the pardons and all this other stuff. That's not for tonight. Hope you all